All right, gang, we're gonna get started. I mean, colleagues, we're gonna get started. That's right.
Yeah, like, very cool.
You like gang better.
Anyway, we'll catch up. I'll let you know what's going on.
Um,
We're doing a bunch of projects with them.
Do I have a, hello, welcome to the Public Safety Task Force meeting for
Hi, Alex.
April 13th, 2026. Thank you for all who are present and those who are with us on Zoom. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Excellent, thank you so much.
And a
So
bye.
I will note for the record that we do have one member of our task force who can't join tonight. Ethel Shepherd has a conflict, a work conflict. We do have two members who are joining via Zoom. One will be late. John Sachet will be late. Dan Gerstein is with us, as we can see. Dan, thank you so much for joining virtually and for letting us know that you will be doing that. And then we have some members of our joint task force, transportation task force, who are our transportation committee, who are joining virtually as well. Elizabeth and Ken, thank you very much for joining virtually. And we'll come to you in just a moment, Ken, as a co-chair of transportation. And then we have, I know Daria was going to join. She is going to join virtually. She's not on yet. That's Barbara's co-chair on Parks and Environment. And Barbara, do you want to introduce yourself as a co-chair?
Okay, I'm Barbara Adler, co-chair of Parks and Environment Committee in CB7.
And we're very delighted to have our Transportation Committee, our Parks and Environment Committee, and our Senior Task Force joining us as well.
Unfortunately, I have to leave early, but I was very impressed that 62% of respondents to the survey are people over the age of 65.
And Roberta's here in many capacities.
The other side has 20% of the residents are seniors, so that means that 20% really went out and filled out.
And they have been here for almost 80% have been here for more than 10 years. 80% have been, of the respondents have been here for 10 years or more, which is a neat, very long-standing, community members.
Yeah, when we seniors.
And Roberta's here in many
Planted trees
capacities
together.
as chair of the Senior Task Force. And she's commenting, of course, on the survey, which we have first on our agenda. We're going to make a little adjustment momentarily. But she also participated in can I call it a walk around? So what should we call it? What should we call it?
I don't know what we did.
What did you do? What did you do?
Just gossip.
You took a walk. You took a walk.
Unfortunately.
So Roberta has to leave early, so we're gonna take that part of the meeting first. And you share with us, you three share with us what you did and what you saw.
We froze our butts off.
Yes.
We walked on 72nd Street, we stood at 72nd Street for a while. It was a freezing cold day.
Now, who was there? It was
It
you,
was
Linda Alexander, and our chair, Alex Bell.
One of my children, I can't remember.
And his little son. It was a freezing cold day, there weren't a lot of people out, it was not an auspicious day. So we're going to reschedule for, and we went at 11, we think we need to go at 1 o'clock. Yeah. We're gonna pick a Saturday that has no rain and some warm weather. And then we're gonna pick an evening, a weeknight evening at rush hour. What the transportation committee has done over the years, pick a spot and just stand there for half an hour, 40 minutes and watch what's happening. Unlike our chair who walked into
Walked into
I did not recommend.
So
That was the point.
which spot did you
Try to
select?
get in.
Point is to observe.
With a baby carriage.
Which spot did you select this time, Roberta?
We picked the Central Park along the bike lane, the West Drive. We picked 72nd Street, and then we had them in front of the museum, 7th Street.
Okay.
And had it been warmer, we would have done 81st
I
Street.
think we had agreed that we were going to do 85th and 81st because that's where the hills are, more traffic.
I'm talking
Talk
about
about Papa Big One.
We're basically on.
Yeah, we did.
And so
I
you
ended up
feel
liking
like had it
Liberty.
been warmer and had it been later in the day,
Yes.
it would have been a different experience. But what did you, were there takeaways from the walk?
No,
No?
unfortunately.
No?
Nobody was out riding their bikes that day
I
because
mean, there were people riding bikes,
Very
but it
few.
seemed like, you know,
Yeah.
There was no, the only person in danger was the people that, our chair was in danger.
It was basically a repeat of what we had done the month before, when it was also too cold. No bikes were out, and
Yeah.
it was a weekend. Was it a weekend? I think it was a weekend. And,
Oh, it's no
it was
King's
just a
Day
very
too,
poor
yeah.
family.
Okay, so do we think it would be worthwhile to do it again in say
Yeah.
May
Yeah,
or
definitely.
June?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the goal.
It is interesting what you guys are saying, though, is that it's very time of day / weather specific. Which is interesting, right? Yeah, season specific.
Well, people are out with more bikes, but I also think you've got a lot of commuter bikes there and probably during the week, if we can,
Yeah.
you know, get some time, you know, carve some time out during the week, would probably be more successful.
More pedestrian.
Yeah, more pedestrians too, so, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that report. And we'll hopefully have more people joining as well on the walk. It'll be more fun.
And then we'll all go to pop-up bagels.
Okay, so then let's turn to actually, I promised Ken I'd give him an opportunity before we turn to the survey, which Jennifer is going to talk about, and then we're all going to strategize a bit about social media, which I know our chair is very interested to hear our thoughts on. Ken, I know you and I have talked about the need for civility. We believe in civility on Community Board 7, all of us.
Why start now?
Thank you, Doug, for injecting some levity. So Ken wanted to address something that's come up since our last meeting, and I promised him I'd give him the floor, something that came up here at the Public Safety Task Force, not at his transportation meeting. And I promised I'd give him an opportunity to do that. So Ken, go ahead and say what it is you'd like to say to this group.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, great.
Okay, yeah, I thank you.
All
I just, and I promised Jamie this would only take about a minute. But I know this will come as a shock to Jay, but I uttered a falsehood at your February task force meeting. In my exchange with Janet Schroeder of the E-Vehicle Safety Alliance, I referred to an incident on the Greenway where a cyclist named John Campo had been hit from the side by a scooter down, e-scooter down near the city winery. And I said at the meeting that the crossing guard there had said to him that John Campo, was at fault. That's absolutely not true. The e-scooter rider was at fault. I went back and checked. You can listen to his video on the E-Vehicle Safety Alliance's website, and it's unequivocal. The crossing guard said that the e-scooter rider was at fault. So I sincerely apologize to Janet, to the task force, and especially to John Campo for that falsehood. And as a fellow cyclist who uses the Greenway a lot, I wish him safe riding.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken, for that and for taking the time to come tonight and to make that statement and for reaching out to me to ask to make it. All right, so now what we're going to do is take a turn to what was originally at the top of our agenda. And that is our public safety survey. And an update on what kind of result we've had and what we think we've learned from it, and maybe some brief conversation about how we might push this survey further into the community, and maybe future surveys from other committees or from the board in general into the community. And I want to say a very special thank you to my colleague Jennifer, who really stepped up when she, yes. I like Google.
Yes, when she saw me struggling with the survey and, Alex, saying, Jamie, what's going on with the survey? And Jennifer said, I'll help. And I didn't even have to ask. She volunteered. I love a volunteer. So Jennifer, share with us what you think we can glean from, and thank you for sharing also earlier today, because that
Yes.
gives us an opportunity to preview, so we come ready to the meeting, which is always helpful.
Absolutely, and as a follow-up to this, we will recirculate the survey and also, I can show you, each of you individually, but also collectively, that, everyone has access to the survey. And important to know that questions, the responses, as well as, the graphs that I shared them in a PDF form, just so we could, you could see it very simply on your phone, but that's all available to you in real time. That's what's so great about the Google Forms sheet. And so it's a really good tool for us to use. And, you know, someone who's been in the nonprofit and public sector for decades, you know, surveys are critically important tools for us to capture information from our constituents and from our clients and from our staff. And they're only good if they're used. And there's nothing worse. And I also, one of my areas of expertise for over years is as running volunteer programs. And there's nothing worse than asking someone what they think, you know, if it's a volunteer or it's a person, and then not having a mechanism or an interest or a commitment into following up on what you've asked. Because, you know, if someone is courteous enough to take the time to share with us what they think, it's really our obligation to be sure that we find ways in which to respond in a meaningful way. That does not mean we're going to solve every problem. And most people misunderstand that, you know, asking people for what they think and giving feedback and talking about it means that you're going to be able to provide a solution. Often it's just important to be able to say, we heard you.
Yes.
And that we are taking you seriously. And if you explain some of the barriers or the challenges, you know, 90%, 95% of the people out there, I would guess 99% of the reciters would be thoughtful enough to say, how that's interesting and maybe I can help. But there's so much more. People don't always need do you write? They do just need to be heard. And there's nothing that this exercise could be in vain if we're not able to take steps in order to share, to tell people that we've heard you. It doesn't mean we need to solve every safety problem, but it does mean that we need to take steps. And that also dovetails into the conversation about social media.
Yeah.
You know, I feel very strongly that social media it's the tool for which we do the work. It's not the work. And so that's what we have to, you know, decide as a group, is that how, you know, we would like to communicate, we would like to get the word out, but that's the tool. You know, what do we want to say? And how do we want to say it? And who do we want to ask questions to? And how do we want to capture that feedback? So that is the goal of the survey. The survey was thoughtfully created by Jamie and I think her colleagues. I saw the survey, I have experienced survey design, and I added a few demographic fields. Some of which, Rhoda said, you know, may have been redundant, which, you know, that's correct. And we'll, you know, the good news is I think we have the right picture with the data. You know, overwhelmingly, the data says that, you know, the majority of the respondents were female. The majority of the respondents were over 65. The majority of the respondents, interesting, work full-time. So you have really engaged, active, incredible seniors living on the Upper West Side, which you already knew, you know, and we also have two major buckets where people are concerned. You know, you can slice the data any way. We have so much data, because actually what's funny is that since we released the data earlier this morning, 50 more people have responded, and I bet it's not you, you know? So it's just kind of fun. We don't capture email addresses. It's all anonymous unless you want to, you know, and we ask people to go like sign on, you know, we say, we don't make them put their email information in here, but we say, go to our website and sign up for our, you know, for our newsletter.
How many responses did we get?
722 as of now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
great.
It's pretty great.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
How do we sign up to speak?
You don't need to
You don't
sign
need to sign
up
up.
when we
Yeah.
have
Okay.
an opportunity for the public, you'll just step forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You raise your hand, yeah.
Time
Um,
criteria?
When we do take speakers, the time will be limited and it will also be limited for members of the committee, so fear not.
Okay.
And I will also limit but there's two major buckets and we can look thoughtfully at the data. And Steve, I know you have a lot of, thoughts and ideas, like number about, we need to get the word out. And I just would think we should talk as a group about what that means and what is the most meaningful way to engage. Now that we know who's responding and now that we know what to say, the worst thing we can do is say, there's two major categories, which is, street sidewalk congestion, e-vehicles, scooters. None of this is a surprise to us, and that is a major bucket, about how do people feel safe on the streets, in the crosswalks, with the increased traffic? And I think regardless of how you feel about the value of e-vehicles in our society, which I think we all can say there's great value, in that type of, I think we can say that the overwhelming flooding of different types of vehicles on the street has caused people to have to change their behavior. And that is concerning for some, particularly the elderly, who now have to look. I worry about my children commuting because I'm not worried necessarily about them not being hurt on the bus. I am worried about them being distracted in the sidewalk, on a crosswalk, to be frank. So, and that doesn't mean that I don't think that an e-vehicle is a great tool. I do. You can think both things at the same time. And then in addition, there's another bucket, which is very clear, which is the ever growing and more disturbing presence of people living on our streets and living consistently on our streets, living in extremely unwell conditions, and also the encampments that we know have become dangerous. They certainly are disturbing, and also the lack of connection to services that we see extremely prevalently in our community as well. Like working in homeless services, support services also for years, like I used to be able to feel very comfortable picking up the phone and saying, the homeless street outreach contract, come and pick this person up because this woman has been in front of Starbucks for 3 days and I'm concerned. We now are very comfortable with people being on the streets, and that is discomforting for our residents. And then there's also practical issues like, trash and, and encampments and those. So there's two buckets. There's the street safety, which does include scooters, e-bikes, the more dense traffic. And then there also does include, the more mental health on that side. So those are two of the major buckets and then there's also some hundreds of really thoughtful, specific anecdotes from our community members, which everyone, when you have a chance, should read. It's all in the data, and it's it's in the Excel sheet, so you can sort it. And that's the long and short.
So with gratitude, again, I will commend those comments to everyone. I would call them comments
Yeah.
or suggestions or anecdotes,
Yeah.
as you call
Yeah.
them, a combination.
Yeah,
of those.
personal experiences.
Really meaningful.
Yeah.
If anyone in the public has questions for Jennifer about our survey, yes, sir, please come forward because we have to hear you.
Oh, okay.
Can you come forward?
Yes, I
Because
will.
the people who are on Zoom won't be able to hear you.
Okay, so this.
Very
One
good.
And
minute?
everybody who speaks from the
You can stand
public,
right there. Yeah, you can stand in front of it.
gets a minute to speak or ask your question. Roberta, thank
You
you
can
so
just stand
much
in
for
front of
joining
this.
us.
Yeah,
Thank
stand
you.
right in front of the phone right
Yeah,
there.
we can come right here.
Just face us,
That's
thanks.
fine. Thank you,
It's
sir.
okay?
Yes, it's perfect. Thank
Okay,
you for
am I looking
joining.
at a camera or anything?
You're looking at us.
Oh, okay.
Tell us who you are, and
Sure.
then tell us what you have to say.
You
Sure,
made the
so my
poor
name
guy
is-
look like he's in a
I
line.
know.
Hi, so my name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. We represent bus and subway passengers and our seniors and everyone around the city. We are concerned with the Department of Transportation putting in these island bus stops, and also what you just discussed with, people being distracted and a lot of these bikers on city bikes and e-bikes, they're not paying attention. We're seeing a lot of collisions when passengers are getting off the buses, especially the back door, because a bike will be coming in full speed, and sometimes the bikes don't pull all the way into the bus stop. So I'm hoping that your survey had included some of that, because, the passenger getting off the bus, maybe a senior, but it could be a young person too. And a lot of times, you're blindsided and they just come right into you and they hit you. And so transit is seeing a lot of collisions with that. And it's the bus operator gets blamed when that happens, not the biker. And a lot of these bikes are uninsured, they don't have lights, they're going the wrong way. So I'm hoping your survey will include all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
All right.
joining. Anyone else from the public on the survey? We are going to talk about e-bikes a bit later. Okay, anyone at committee level or task force level, who wants to, I know my lane, who wants to, ask a question or make a comment about the survey?
Sure.
Steve, I knew you had something.
Is it 2 minutes?
And
Yeah.
we're trying to limit ourselves to 2 minutes because we have such a full agenda.
I think the most powerful factor, in my opinion, of doing the survey is the messaging to the community that CB7 is engaged on these issues. And that CB7 is not abandoning a responsibility on these issues. And I think the history of CB7, from what I see, is that there's been a tremendous amount of dialogue, tremendous amount of discussion, but it's tough to make progress. It's tough to find some resolution that reasonable and unreasonable people can come together and work forward to doing something, even a small step. And I get asked all the time, I don't see anything, why isn't the community board doing anything? And I try to explain, they've been doing a lot of things, I said, a lot of discussions and reading a lot of material and educating and trying to figure ways forward. But we need you. We need you to engage. We need the citizens to engage. Citizen engagement is what often stimulates legislative action. It's what forces elected officials and government officials to actually do something about a particular issue. And therefore, we know we have differences. We have differences around the table, and we have differences in all the committees that have been talking about this for years and years. But I think it is incredibly important to share the fact that this is a survey seeking input and to share the results perhaps in ways that are digestible. Here's 2 results. Here's an opportunity. If you want to dig deeper, here's a link that you can see all of the results. That we use every tool there is, everything that comes out of CB7 in e-blast form, the waveform, the billboard, link at NYC, and all of that, and the other ways in which at community meetings, the elected officials will put these things in. I think it's really important. There's no one answer. I think we have to do all these things and not wait too long. Then it becomes stale, exactly what you're talking. It becomes stale. We've seen this in research studies time and time again. Okay, you can't have the study for 2 years.
Faculty with
Sure.
it. with
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
Because
So,
you've seen it a number of times and I know you've
Yeah.
looked at it, I know you've taken it, I know you've circulated it. Why don't you pull out 2 to 3 items you think would be
I think we should,
recommendations?
I think we
to-
should pull out 2 or 3 items in 6 different buckets and
I
give
think
those
you
as
should
examples.
suggest exactly what those should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can pull it
Absolutely.
together and
Because
maybe-
you don't know
yeah.
what will engage someone
Yeah.
in an issue that says, oh, the community board is concerned about that too. I'm concerned about that. Let me respond.
But I
It's a
think a
way
great
to
way to s-
engage people
Yeah,
in this whole process.
but a great way to start to get everyone, in committee, it's difficult to move forward unless we have something to respond to specifically. And so I think, if you having like 2 with your expertise. lens,
Absolutely.
have 2 or 3 options, and then everyone can say, this feels good, this doesn't feel correct. Like, what happens when someone does feel like this is, what happens when someone does?
Right, the only
feel
thing I
through?
think that would
Yeah.
be counterproductive is to spend the next 2 months discussing which of these 6 data points we're gonna share, because I think that, I think it's all worthy of sharing. Every bit of it is
I
worthy
think
of
that's
sharing.
my point.
Yeah.
You said there should be 2 or 3, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good start.
Absolutely.
And if I think everyone here can commit to responding to an email or responding to
Great.
some response.
Quickly.
Absolutely.
We can do it.
Yeah,
Thank
then
you.
I like the idea of then
And-
sharing.
Yeah, and thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else?
I want to say that the survey, I'm looking at it now, definitely you targeted the right
Hold on,
type of
wait, let me-
questions for the population. And what stands out for me are the e-bikes from the feedback that everyone has given us, the e-bike and the mental issues. I think those are two areas that we should focus on first. Make it simple to the point, because there is a lot of issues, of course. And then what I like to find out, because I noticed like a lot of young people did not respond. So I don't know if we can get the word out to maybe some of the parents, to get feedback from people who go to school. Maybe even some of the schools, maybe speak to them and see if they could, get some feedback from the students, how they feel about safety, going to school, coming from school, et cetera, not just the senior population and the adults. I think it's important for us to look at the youth as well, because
Yeah.
safety impacts them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we went to meet with the Dems,
Mhm.
West Side Dems.
Yeah,
And there's no reason we couldn't meet with schools.
right, exactly.
Or
Well,
other,
YEL is also doing that on a regular
Right,
basis, so we
right.
can definitely.
And
Yeah,
take
that's
the
what I'm saying,
survey,
yeah,
and take the survey with us.
right,
And
Mhm.
perhaps share it.
They do newsletters every week.
Yeah.
So that's a thought.
Yeah, yeah.
And push it
Mhm.
out to new audiences.
right, exactly, because I think it's important. A lot of time we don't listen to how they feel, we just talk about us as adults.
Mhm,
But we're not
mhm.
thinking about the children, how do they feel? Are they feeling safe in the playground? Are they feeling safe when they go to school,
Yeah.
et cetera? So I think that's important.
I don't think the survey is good enough for them. I think we should think about if we want to do that. if the
Yeah.
Copy needs to be adjusted. This would be.
Well, I
good
was
for
thinking in
parents.
terms of maybe
Or
reaching
maybe a
out to the
separate survey.
principals of
Yes.
I was thinking in terms of reaching out to the principals of the school
Yeah.
and ask them, you understand, to do a survey and then give us the feedback so that this way we can figure out.
The schools could take.
Yeah.
To shepherd that one and.
Exactly.
Because they really are different.
Exactly, yeah,
Issues, because
Mhm.
of when the kids are going to
Right.
school.
Mhm.
I think Dan Gerstein's here.
Well, anyone else in the room before we go online on the survey? All right, Dan, you're up.
Great. First of all, Jennifer, great work. Thank you so much for taking this on. You are a saint. Secondly, I totally agree with Polly. That is a great suggestion about trying to be proactive in soliciting parents' input as a parent of a 5-year-old. The one suggestion I would say is instead of reaching out to the schools, which are overburdened, we should reach out to the PTAs. The PTAs want parents to be heard and will have a vested interest in sharing this. So I'm more than happy to do that at my school, PS 452, to get it to the P. But I think it's pretty easy to get the contact information for the heads of the PTAs at different schools and ask them to distribute the survey via email. And then I was going to say on a larger point.
Let me just jump in,
Sure,
and this, as you suggested, may be the place to partner with YEL.
Definitely
Because there's constant
With the-
interface.
with the
with-
PTAs,
Yes.
and also, if we could ask, this probably should be enhanced and scrubbed a little bit more
Oh, yeah.
before we go to them, because, so we will think about that, but we won't drag our feet, and, that's just so maybe you can add a few school focused questions,
That makes sense. Yes.
just to, yeah.
Mhm.
Just quick question. I know we've been doing some tabling. Have we incorporated this survey at the tabling? Because that's something in the future that could, a QR code or something.
Good question. We
It's a
do
good
have
idea.
a survey, different survey that we ask people on the site. It is a good idea, like, Miriam gets lots of people to respond. Because she says like, hey, come by, you, bam, the kid, come here, and then ask 5 questions.
Mhm.
But they're less like, tell me your biggest thing, they're more like, 1 to 10, you care about preservation or new housing?
Right.
You care about food insecurity or X? And so she's trying to get like people like you.
That's great.
But going in person, Barbara and I have 6,000 responses to our our Broadway bid survey. And the reason we got to 6,000 was like, a big part of it was like Linda, Barbara, others went up and down Broadway asking shop owners things. So there's just gonna be very few people who take a survey online,
Right.
right? And so you do have to do a lot of like at the 96th Street subway saying, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I think a lot of
This
it,
is-
we had a QR code
This is a long
that we had
survey.
people
Like that.
copy on their phone. You say to somebody, you want to take a public survey, a survey about how you feel in the neighborhood, why don't you just
Did they
copy?
do it right then and there? Some of them, right then and
Some
there?
of them did.
Yeah.
Or if you have a
little QR code that you can hand them, so they can.
Steve, most of them were
I
actually.
think Dan was still in the middle of his,
We're walking to the stores and everything.
Yes, they're just taking it with them.
Dan, I think, was in the
Yeah,
middle
no,
of
I know.
his.
Dan.
That's okay. All good, all good. Thank you, Doug. So
Go ahead, Dan.
in response to the question about what to do with the survey results, right? I definitely agree that like sharing the information is obviously something we should do. But if we really want to honor people and show that we're listening, I think we need to communicate what we're doing about it. Like not just that we're, listening, but we're going to act, right? And, again, we're not going to solve the problems, but I think to show that we're doing something concrete in response to people's concerns is a way that I think we can build more engagement and public trust. Okay. And part of the reason I say this, and I probably will ruffle a few feathers here, but I looked at the West Side Rag story about the ICE resolution, which unfortunately I was not able to comment on because I was away for a vacation. But the overwhelming response was like, what a waste of time. It was performative. And unfortunately, I think that is maybe not a majority view of the board, but it's out there. And I think a way to and a way to counteract that is by proactively through social media channels and communicating with people that we are taking action. These are some of the things we're doing in direct response to the concerns that came out of this survey. And again, it doesn't have to be life-changing, but again, social media is a great way for doing that because we're saying, tonight we're having a hearing on this and, focusing on the things that you talked about in the survey, right? And then after the meeting, we can share, we are drafting a resolution on X, Y, and Z. And then once the resolution, because again, touching them regularly to show that we're being responsive and not just passively listening, I think is a major step forward.
Thank you. Great. Which I think turns us to what I hope will be productive but focused and brief conversation about social. So we've talked a bit, Dan, Jennifer, myself, Alex, and a couple other people here about how we might use social media as an engagement tool. And we're not the first to discuss it. It's been discussed before under when Beverly was chair and perhaps even before that. Elizabeth, you and I talked about how during the era before I was on the board, there was a lot of movement around social media. But it's hard to move forward together as a board when we have 50 members or even on this task force with 15 members. And so we wondered if anyone has thoughts about that, or I don't know if Dan and Jennifer, Dan, you were just making some cogent points about how we could be using that to be responsive. And I liked what you said, Jennifer. Social media isn't an end in and of itself. It's just a tool, a messaging tool. Doug, do you want to, Doug, you're here. So why don't we go in order? I don't know if Jennifer and Dan, since you've been helping with this effort, you want to first say something and then maybe we hear from Doug and Elizabeth, or if you feel you've said what you have to say. I don't want to put you on the spot further. You've already contributed.
No, I think our social media is not well trafficked at the moment, but that's because of the newsletter is really well trafficked, I think, and switching that medium. And if you see the demographic of who is responding to those things, it may not be the same demographic that's using social media. So there's an opportunity to capture more participants on the Upper West Side. And I think the tabling and your survey response is actually such a good example of how we could get the word out to have people like walk up and down the street and say, follow us here, and then take a picture of someone and say, we'll post you. People love this kind of stuff. I mean, they do, like the cat's out of the bag. It's never going away. And but I do feel pretty strongly that it has to be meaningful and the hesitance to tweet, to put something out about public safety, only is that I think I would like a message. For example, we've had like a couple speakers that have been pretty on point for e-bike safety, for example. And why don't we, do like a 2-sentence summary of who's visited and the groups that we're listening to and working with, and tell them we hear you, and these are some of the stakeholders who we're talking to actively. Please join us to get the word out. Like That's a perfect example of what one slide could be for a social media post. It's purposeful, it's germane, right, to the whole discussion. But it doesn't overpromise and it doesn't,
It's informative.
it's informative and it gives
Yeah.
people a call to action, come to the meeting or take the survey or see us at a tabling event, so that's.
Can I
that's
ask Jennifer a question?
Ironically, Elizabeth appointed Sue Urbani and they did the first social media for the community board.
Years
Decade
ago,
ago.
yeah.
And then it was Twitter and
Yeah.
Facebook.
Space,
And we didn't get to obviously those, no, I don't think,
Yeah.
probably longer than that, but, yeah, it's a good world and people live on social.
And
media
X
now.
is big,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, you have a question
Yeah, just
before
a-
Elizabeth?
On some of the e-blasts that we've done I've done for other projects, we've had the option of someone that said, do you want to be updated on, and they put in their email address. And it's created for us thousands of interested
Yeah.
parties
Yeah.
who have opted in, not as a requirement for participation, but showing those who are engaged on the issue and would like to hear, have an update. And it created for us, thousands of interested follow-up from a base of like 300,000 who received the e-blast. So that might be easily done without too much pain.
Yeah. Dan, you wanted to add?
Yeah, so, well, since you asked, Jamie, one thing that I think we should be thinking about, not just for the Public Safety Task Force, but for the board writ large, is
Right.
doing this ad hoc, doing this by committee is hard. And having one person who is tasked with being, the regular, and again, it's not a full-time job, but who's tasked with kind of owning the social media channels, I think will yield dividends. And I would strongly urge us to consider hiring a young person, part-time, won't cost a lot of money, but it will make a meaningful difference. And so that's a process point. The second thing is in terms of content and what we can be doing. An easy thing is to be sharing resources, right? So part of, as I see it, our brief is not just being advocates, it's serving the interests of the community. And I think a way to do that would be to make resources available, information available to people around the issues we're discussing. Social media is perfect for that, right? So the survey, piece of information, that's really valuable information about what your neighbors are thinking about. Around e-bikes, let's share, people are talking about Priscilla's Law. Let's share information about Priscilla's Law. Not necessarily that until we have a resolution that we're endorsing it, but again, giving people resources about what some of the options are on the table, what people are talking about. I think that is very much within our remit as a board and will stimulate engagement because that people will be looking for information from us. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I'm done.
Elizabeth, I see you. Go ahead.
I have so much to say about this and I'm just really glad for all these. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay, great. And just really grateful for everyone's contributions and really excited that Linda's there in the room because she was with me when this sort of push got started over a decade ago, like 10, 11, 12 years ago, and my, how things have changed. But a lot has stayed the same. And I guess my first point is I feel like this is like too big of a conversation for this meeting tonight. I think we need to have a separate community board, whether it's at steering, devote a chunk of the steering meeting to this because it impacts not just public safety, but everywhere. So I guess that's my first point. And then just on just some little takeaways. Number one, I think we largely all have said great ideas. I think we need to be really realistic about the situation that we're facing with resources right now. And to Dan's point about hiring somebody, that would be great. I have no idea if it's possible. And I also think that while we're talking about all these ways to do stuff, I think we're sort of underestimating, myself included, the amount of time it takes for any one individual to actually do that work. So I agree that having somebody deputized to do it across, so there's some standardization would be great. I also, the times, and again, this is dating back 10 to 12 years, but another thing I think we need to be careful about is that we are not just an advertisement for what our local elected officials are pitching us. and just to be an avenue to sort of like spout out, you mentioned Priscilla's Law, Dan, like there are other places people can go that to get information about Priscilla's Law. Like Community Board 7 should not, in my view, should not be, I think like if we want to put something on our website that's like, here's the local, some of the legislation that's impacting some of the issues, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think we should be actively, unless it deals with the resolution that we have supported, I think it's just too much for us to be in the business, and then we have to decide which legislative items are more important than other ones.
No,
So,
just to clarify, Elizabeth, I'm talking about if it's on the agenda, like there's a resolution on the
sure,
agenda,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
Sharing the information ahead of time so that
right,
people can come informed
right,
to the conversation.
right. And I think to a certain degree, that's stuff that at the committee level, when you go to the committee website or when you click on the agenda for a meeting, you should be able to get that. I agree that there are other ways, social media, that you can like spread it out. I just don't think that should be core. We did not vote on Priscilla's Law. We did not create Priscilla's Law at the community board level. We're not the agency responsible for it. I think, again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on that. It came up as an example from you. The other thing that I haven't solved yet, and Linda, I know we had extensive conversations about this, is the level of interactivity that we want with social media and engagement, because we were sort of screwed if we did, screwed if we didn't. If somebody made a comment, we limited how people could comment, right? And a lot of people didn't like that because they wanted to be able to engage with, our Facebook page or with, somebody on the other end of the Twitter feed, right? But doing that also takes time. And depending on who has access from CB7, a person could be more or less opinionated than another person and maybe not reflect the facts or what the board, like there's a lot of gray area there. And so we erred on the side of using social media as a way to push information out to people, but to limit the actual interactivity. The goal was to get those people to come to a board meeting and express their opinions, right? Not to have there be online exchanges all the time between people. Number one, because it opened it up the community board, and number two, it opened up like just the possibility for us to be taking positions on things that were not the purview of the board, i.e. political endorsements, people's campaigns, things like that were not a part of the community board. And then secondly, it was, again, went back to resources that, not having somebody, we want to be known as a responsive body. And when you let a comment sit in the comment section and don't respond to it, you're seen as ineffective as a government body. And like, should that responsibility be Jessie, like she checks the email, or whoever's in the board staff? Should it be a person deputized by the board? Should it be an intern? Is somebody who's a young person mature enough to be able to know the incoming sort of stuff? So there's a whole bunch of questions. And my long-winded way of saying this is that I think it would be worth devoting an hour at either a steering committee meeting or as a standalone meeting. And I would be happy to join that meeting and support it however I can. So that's
I agree about the standalone meeting 100%. This effort here at Public Safety is really kind of a pilot. It's not intended to be separate and apart from what would ultimately be board work. And I agree with you 100% that this is really a much, much bigger conversation for the board and the chair, who's seated right across from me. With that said, Doug and Patrick, do you have something you want to contribute?
Yeah.
And I want to remind everyone, we're trying to keep our board comments to about 2 minutes each so we can get on to the resolution that's on the.
So that dovetails nicely into what I was gonna say, which is that, we even are still defining ourselves as public safety. I was a public safety coordinator, which I kind of was a one-man show, and that was very challenging. I can tell you that, we've got basically 10 meetings a year, right? If that. And this is common knowledge, unless you've been living under a rock, you know, the media used to be unilateral, right? You know, you put an ad out and people would just hear you. Obviously, it's bilateral, and that's the whole idea of social media. What we need to know collectively is, what do we want to say? What do we want to ask? And it should be two-way flow. The MTA, for example, does surveys regularly because they want to know how they're doing. Obviously, they have a whole different budget, but they do a very specific survey about buses. They do a very specific survey about trains, right? And the safety on platforms, right? So, you know, I'm really concerned we're gonna get into less substance and not enough, not enough, we're talking about form, not enough substance, right? There are very tangible things that we can do. I saw in the survey, it wasn't the most, the highest performing question, but about lighting. Okay, that's very tangible. We need better lighting. Where do we need lighting and why? We can then speak to DOT and our elected officials about something very tangible. I'm just concerned that we're gonna have meetings about meetings about meetings, and we have so many different subject matter under public safety, obviously. I mean, and by the way, kudos to you for the survey, it's wonderful. But what are we gonna do about it? So I just think efficiency here, very solution oriented, because we have such limited resources, we have such limited number of meetings. So can we, you know, and if we have accomplishments that we have been successful, then that would be something to get out to the public, right? So, you know, thank you. Saved by the bell.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Well received comments. Thank you. Patrick, who will have the final word.
I think this is definitely a worthwhile discussion to continue on its own about social media. I'll say this, I think notwithstanding the lack of resources, Dan's right, you do need a dedicated person to handle this in any kind of efficient fashion. But I do think we're seeing this is kind of representative of some larger issues that the board has. Mainly that it, not to put too fine a point on it, but a lot of the time we're reaching out to the same people over and over and over again. Like, as Barbara mentioned, the Upper West Side is about 20% over 65, and yet they are the vast majority of our survey respondents. Even when our survey is put out largely, correct me if I'm wrong, largely over social media. Newsletter, okay. Not over social.
The opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like with the social media, that could be a huge opportunity to reach out to people who we historically just haven't really talked too much. And I also think that one thing with the social media, we do need to put more stuff on there than just, hey, come to this meeting, or hey, fill out this survey. In part as a matter of some people are just not going to come to a meeting. Especially when there's so few of them, like you just run into issues like scheduling conflicts, especially younger people who have kids, maybe don't have time to handle that, maybe off normal scheduling. These are things that we need to take into account. And with all the fault that it has, like the federal public comment system on regulations, for instance, does allow you to submit things anytime you want from anywhere in the world. And last thing, regarding the survey, I do think the survey is great. It's a great first step. For the fact of it's being so lopsided demographically, I do worry somewhat about putting it up on a public forum like social media, because I think that risks saying like, hey, this is the part of the Upper West Side we care.
Oh, the results.
Yeah, the results, yeah.
Okay.
Not the survey. Yeah, definitely ask it.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick, for those thoughts. Thanks to everyone for this robust conversation about both the survey and thinking broadly about social. And Elizabeth, I think is correct. It's a much bigger conversation if we're going to have it than just this task force, this 20-minute conversation at the task force. So we'll approach our chair about where else we might have it, maybe steering, maybe elsewhere. Okay, so now we are going to move on in our agenda, unless anyone has anything else they absolutely must say about that topic, to our resolution.
There's a
Madam Chair.
hand up.
Yes,
I
sir.
have to leave, and I wonder if I could just say two things to
Hold
to
on.
your committee.
Yes, please come
Thanks.
forward, sir. We are here for you. You
I have
are the
another
public.
appointment. I'm so sorry. My name is Ron Wisniewski. I'm with the E-Vehicle
Oh,
Safety
yes,
Alliance.
hi,
Hi,
Ron.
nice to
Yes,
see you.
we've met.
We communicated about response times for ambulances. I gave you some evidence. Hopefully, the chairman will share that with you, some videos as well. The E-Vehicle Safety Alliance is holding a rally on a Thursday at 1:15 on the steps of City Hall. I will expect to see you all there. And I have flyers for you all. Please take one and pass it down. And this is to reintroduce Priscilla's Law to license and register all e-vehicles. It's still named for Priscilla Loke, who was killed in a crosswalk by an East City bike rider running a red light. Those are facts. Another victim is here tonight. Her name is Renee Baruch. I don't know, did you receive an apology, Renee, for the victim shaming that went on here? You did not. Yeah, well, that's interesting. So I guess that's all we need to say. I think that the time for task force are over after 4.5 years. What kind of material are you going to uncover? Thanks again. And Renee deserves better.
Well, Renee, we hope we're gonna hear from you in a bit.
Thank you.
Ron, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jamie.
Madam Chair, can I just make a quick comment? Thank you.
What is it that you want to speak on, sir?
The bicycle safety. the
Well,
bicycle-
we haven't
Get it.
yet opened the floor for that. I
Oh,
gave
okay.
Ron an opportunity to speak because he's leaving.
Oh, all right, okay.
But if you can sit tight, we're gonna turn to that next.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so now we are going to turn to the resolution. This is such a good idea. That everyone should have had an opportunity to see in the Google Doc.
There doesn't happen to be an extra copy floating around.
There are
Oh my
copies.
God,
I brought
lucky
them
me.
For those who, but I'm
Oh,
trying to
of the
share, I'm
resolution?
gonna share it as well.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Does anybody want more?
Okay, so, I feel that we have discussed this before, quite, in great detail, in quite a bit of detail. I'm having some difficulty sharing, so bear with me.
I hate share screens.
Well, I think it may be because I'm in the Zoom room as a.
So we don't.
But Jay, why don't you go ahead while I try and share, the screen and present the resolution?
Okay, first of
In
all,
brief, because we.
yeah,
all-
I was just gonna say, I'm nervous already.
We're among friends.
So I'll very quickly summarize the underlying facts that are in the resolution, most of which I believe all of us are at least familiar with in a cursory way, if not in depth. And answer a couple of anticipated questions that were raised in connection. First of all, why are we at the Public Safety Task Force as opposed to the Transportation Committee? In December, I raised the concern that we hadn't dealt with this issue in 4 years, and that over that 4-year period, a couple of things had happened. Number one, the use of e-bikes has grown exponentially over that time. An example, the most obvious two examples are deliveries, which are now exclusively done on e-bikes, and the growth of City Bike, which exceeds 25,000 bikes citywide, and now at least 60% of them are e-bikes. Anyway, the reception that I got at that meeting was, well, we gave our opinion on this 4 years ago, and there's really no reason to bring it up again. And then later that was qualified with, unless there's something new to talk about. Well, the growth is something new to talk about. The increase in problems is something new to talk about. And in this resolution, for the first time, one part of it deals with the situation of unidentified and uninsured e-bikes causing a lack of enforcement, an inability to identify, and no recourse for the victims in e-bike accidents. So that explains, in my opinion, why we're here. I was going to say this in the discussion of the survey, but I'll just quickly point to the fact, because the second thing I was told, I said in the resolution that the complaints about e-bike operations are the most numerous to all of our elected officials' offices. And I was questioned as to whether or not that in fact is accurate, since I was told it didn't reflect complaints to the community. So I can't say I was pleased about the poll, because I wish I wasn't seeing the extent of concern in the community about this, but it reinforces the fact that this is an extraordinarily important issue in this community, as it's the #1 action that our community feels would improve public safety. So that being said, the other thing is that despite the growth in e-bike use and the attendant problems and the rising voices in so many places about it, nothing has been done legislatively in that 4 years about the basic needs for this problem, which are identification and accountability and recourse for victims. So that's the basis why I felt it was so important for us to reconsider this at this time.
I just want to point out that Parks and Environment also has taken up this issue
True.
twice, and we're not done with it yet, because people are terrified crossing the park drives.
Yeah, but that's not the question. So the question that I asked, which you answered kind of, is,
You had two
I
questions.
had 2 questions, which you kind of answered.
I'll
So-
try hard.
So one is you said like the #1 response to elected officials. Now, I was just saying like,
#1 complaint.
put a footnote, because like Gail Brewer says that publicly. I agree with you.
Okay,
No, but I know, but if I'm reading a document about the building of the Brooklyn Bridge, I don't wanna say, it said Roebling's wife made, did et cetera. I wanna be like, let me have a nice footnote, cause it adds punch. So again, what I was just saying to you was like, find one of the clips where Gail says, my #1 issue is e-bikes. Or get her to write that in an email, and so then we can put the footnote, Gail Brewer says.
can you send it to me?
No, I know, but I can't find it. I looked at the
Okay.
YouTube. But I'm just saying, get her.
I'm computer impaired.
Okay.
If you can't find it, I won't
I'm not,
find
I'm,
it.
so basically,
I
what I'm
understand
saying
what
is,
you're
I'm
saying.
not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying it'd be nice to have a footnote.
I'll try.
But now you don't need it, but technically you could say like, our survey.
Yeah.
So that's good. That gives a nice punch.
Also, we have the 311 data point, right? That's
The
the #1 complaint on 311 now with e-bikes.
Okay.
I think that you can find that publicly.
Yeah, that one's a good public.
And that's a citywide data point.
Data from hospitals.
But that's a good example. We can't find there's no hospital data point.
Do you want,
I'll get it.
Renee, let Alex make his
Okay, so
second
the
point,
second
and then
point,
we'll
which
have you
was
speak.
good, was, and I'm glad you said it, like, the feedback in, and this video clip I did send you, Jamie, The feedback from
Mhm.
transportation wasn't like, we shouldn't talk about this. The feedback from Carrie, which will totally come up in full board, by the way, is in Robert's Rules of Order, as well as in many bodies like ourselves, you don't want to revisit something that was previously decided on. Why? Well, then, if Doug comes to us for a restaurant and says, you know, I want to open this restaurant, we say, great, here's your liquor license, or something, we say, great. And then he builds out his restaurant, and then 3 months later, we're like, actually, Doug, your restaurant's, we don't like that. We should have some substantive reason, something should have happened to say, this is the reason why something has changed, and this is why we're taking away your liquor license. So that's what so the point Carrie was making, and will probably make a full board, is you should clearly define in your resolution, which you kind of do, but again, I feel like it can be improved, is like, what is the differences from the 2021 resolution that you're specifically asking for? So as an example, class 1 is a good example. So you could say, in 2021, we asked for
For 2 and
registration of
3.
2 and 3. We now believe, because City Bike is class 1, we now believe class 1 should also be included. That is a good, ties it back, right? Because like in 2021, City Bike didn't have electric bikes. There were no class 1 City Bike. So like you tie it back now, well, like nicely. So similarly, I think we'll also come up, which is like, we don't want to say we're passing, like nothing has happened in 3 years, and now we're gonna pass a resolution, and someone will go, okay, great, nothing's gonna happen again. So I also think it'd be good to say like, we previously asked state legislators to do Y, or we asked the NYPD to do. The NYPD tried to do more enforcement via this other method, criminal summons, but then, XYZ pulled it back. Like adding those pieces, like,
Yeah.
none of our elected officials tried to pass a law. Why is that? Something to answer the question, not just saying like, we ask you once again to approve.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be like,
I don't disagree with anything you've said.
yeah,
I think some of it is inherent
right.
in the explanation of why we're here, but I'm happy to
Yeah.
expand it.
I think you gotta expand it and add those things to say like, this is why it didn't happen, we think. Here's why it should be reconsidered. Here's the differences, like we think scooters should be a thing or shouldn't be a thing. I think your point about the reporting of the accidents is actually new. You didn't talk about that in 2021, so that's good.
May we do what we generally do before we, as a task force, speak?
Sorry.
And hear from any members of the public who have something they want to say. So that would be Renee, and I think Charlton, you also wanted to come back up. Renee, would you be kind enough to come closer to our microphones?
I'm sure.
Why are we doing this before, in the middle of the presentation?
Well, I thought your presentation was finished.
No.
Oh, someone.
I had interjected and you're part of the clarification.
Okay, well, Renee is standing now, so let her
What do you
say
want me
what
to
you,
do?
go ahead, Renee, go ahead. You
Well-
you have a minute, go ahead.
I have a minute.
Yeah.
First of all, traffic lights were first installed in New York City in 1920. And I think since that time, there has never been a time when so many vehicles have ignored their commands. I think that anybody who thinks that e-vehicles are not really a problem or should not be regulated needs to try to cross Amsterdam Avenue at 7 PM at night, which is really the height of the delivery. It's also when a lot of people are commuting. The traffic goes both ways, the traffic lights are ignored. It's really very exciting. I was hit by an e-bike and hospitalized. I've told my story here before. Thank you for this additional opportunity. I was hit by an e-bike, hospitalized, multiple surgeries. I spent more than a week in the hospital total. And I still don't know the name of the person who hit me. I don't know who that was. And this resolution needs to pass. I might add to your point. No, it wasn't your point, Steve. It was someone else's point, that it's also the -- 1 complaint at the 20th precinct. Because when I go there to complain, as I do from time to time, they advise me, oh
Very
yeah. we
very
heard that."
persuasively also. You get their attention. They
You're
recognize.
Cutting into
the-
her time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Renee.
It's all right. I think I've said what needs to be said. And I think the resolution needs to pass. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability, and this is the only way to provide it. Thank you so much.
And enforcement.
Okay, thank you, Renee.
Can I
Jay,
continue?
Jay is going to finish the
Finish.
presentation. Why don't we hold, if we have a point of information, that's fine.
I-
But why don't you finish the
I
presentation,
just wanna
then
say
we'll
that-
clarify.
that I technically consider Alex's suggestions as friendly amendments.
Okay,
And if he's
excellent.
okay, we can speak,
Yeah,
refine it, and
Right.
we'll add it.
Sure.
And so take care of that. So just another, couple of quick bases for the resolution. I mean, I already talked about city bikes and the percentage that is increasing, and we see it. You look at a row of city bikes and you'll see, 3 regular city bikes and 35 electric city bikes. It's important to note that e-bikes are the only kind of vehicle, 4-wheel, 2-wheel, 8-wheel, semi-trailers, the only kind of vehicles in the state of New York that aren't required to be registered. And with registration comes insurance. I added an observation that in fact was in the original resolution, which refers specifically to the obligations of food delivery companies. The clear sense of the board at that time, and I suspect at this time also, is that because of the economic benefit that accrues to these companies from the use of e-bikes versus ordinary pedal bikes, and the incentive for the delivery people to speed and rack up deliveries, which is the basis for their pay. My feeling, and I suspect most of the board, is that these billion-dollar companies should bear the burden of the registration cost, which, by the way, is extremely minimal for an individual bike, and for insurance, which, because of the size of the companies, and I won't bore you with the details, but pooling and captive companies is not a major expense for them, and I think they should be required to bear that burden, not these individual delivery people who are struggling to make a living. So that's also in this. And finally, and I kind of surprised myself that I didn't think of this 4 years ago, because I'm familiar with it. It happens to be legislation I worked on umpteen million years ago when I first worked in the assembly, is this Motor Vehicle Accident Indemnification Corporation. It's something of a mouthful, but it's referred to as NVAIC. And what it's done, and it's probably 70, 60 or 70 years old, is that if you are hit by a car and it turns into a hit and run, or if you are hit by a vehicle and that vehicle turns out to be uninsured, you can make a claim against this association. And it's an association that by state law is funded by any and every insurance company that writes vehicular insurance in the state of New York. It's funded by them and it's managed by them, and it's mandatory. So there is a remedy. That remedy obviously doesn't apply to the situation that we just heard about, where someone is victimized by an uninsured none of them are uninsured.
Right.
But more importantly, unidentified, e-bike. And my resolution specifically asks that any legislation passed make clear specifically that e-bikes would be covered under this. And I'll close with that. And just as a quick aside, one of the first bills I worked on in the assembly was one that requires a member of the public to be a member of the board of this association. And 2 days after it was passed and signed into law, Superintendent of Insurance came into my office, said, "Be careful what you wish for. You are now a public member of this board." And I served on the board for about 5 or 6 years, unpaid.
Not like here.
So I hope that wasn't too long. And
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't profess to be the world's living expert on e-bikes, but if anybody has any questions about the resolution, criticisms,
Would you
Support.
mind if before you ask your question, I know Barbara has one as well, we hear, as I promised, from Charlton, I think your name is? Would you come back with your question?
Does this include e-scooters? Well, you can ask.
I did.
Perfect.
What I did was.
All right, everyone, good evening. My name is Charlton D'Souza again from Passengers United. And I'm speaking in my personal capacity, obviously, as a bus rider. These e-bikes are out of control. And as a pedestrian, if I have to stop for the car, so does the e-bike. So does the regular bicycle, and so does the moped. Right now, city bikes don't have a license plate or an identification number, so there's no way to identify them. And then the other thing is, many of the city bike mopeds, many of them are not paying attention, they're using their cell phone. You have 3 people sitting on one bike, crashing into each other. They are the cause of so many empty bus accidents. Some of them have been dead. So, we all share the rules of the road. Everybody has to respect each other. And it's not that we're anti-bike or anything like that. It's just we want everyone to be safe. And there has to be, in the legislation, there has to be training, like a DMV training or something for the app companies where the bikes drivers have to be trained, for safety, rules on the road.
Thank you, Mr. D'Souza.
Yep, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
And any other member of yes, please.
Hey. Hi, my name is Roberta Simon. Excuse me. I was also a victim of e-bike. I don't really recall it. They go very fast. I'm not sure they're classified as motor vehicles, and I think that's a problem that we have to get over.
They are not.
They are not. And I think that is, they have a motor and they go fast and they're very heavy.
If I can, I
Absolutely.
apologize for interrupting, but they are specifically classified under the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, their own category as electric assisted
Yeah.
bicycles.
Which puts them in the same categories, I think, as scooters, medical scooters that people use to get around. And they're heavy, they go fast. I know they're trying to put a speed limit on how fast they should go. But they can go very fast. And just quickly, I was hit in the park. I have a big problem with the bikes being in the park. I have no recollection of this. But as a general rule, I always walk in the pedestrian lane or jog in the pedestrian lane, going in the right direction. Apparently a 16-year-old on an e-bike came at me from behind and I woke up 4 days later with 40 staples in my head. So none of this is funny and it's very serious. The neurosurgeon that I had in the emergency room I was in spoke about a lot of these accidents that come in. The kid who hit me stopped, gave false information because you don't need a license to ride these things. All you need is a credit card. And interestingly enough, some of the attorneys that I've worked with have said, it's too bad that a delivery company didn't hit you, because then perhaps we'd have somebody to go after. Well, I'd like to know why City Bike is not being responsible for, they don't know who this kid was. Maybe he used his mother's credit card. Maybe he used his whoever's. Like, there's absolutely nothing, and they've got, listen, they've got the deep pockets, and I get all that. But, you know, and they've got an ironclad, whatever you sign without reading it, when you go to Lyft or City Bike to rent something. But these bikes need to be classified as motor vehicles, they are dangerous. We're giving them to children who are not able to be licensed behind a car.
Thank
And,
you,
all
Roberta.
right,
Thank you very much.
Can I just say something
You
quickly
may,
about?
but I do want to say, Jay, we have about 7 people online who want to speak, plus these people in the room. And I'm gonna try, when victims speak, I want to be really respectful because it's a very painful memory for them. But you recall last time, the evening wears
I
on.
could have finished.
But I'm the chair, I'm the chair, so I'm trying to make a point about the
I
time.
know, Jamie, I'm only.
So what is it that you feel you must urgently say?
I just wanted to say that as far as City Bike is concerned, registration is based on ownership. City Bike owns the bikes. So if there were a registration requirement for the owners of bikes, City Bike would be encompassed in that legislation.
All right, sir, we're gonna ask you to try to.
I'll be very quick.
I
My name is
know.
Harvey, I'm a random New Yorker.
Thank
2.5 years ago, I was knocked, while commuting to work, I was on a regular bike, I was knocked out by someone on a city bike. And I got off easy, I only broke a clavicle. My daughter-in-law had her tibia broken half by an e-bike, by a city e-bike. I had a colleague in my medical office who was crossing Second Avenue, broke her shoulder, broke her hip, and is no longer practicing. Since everyone here reads the West Side Rag, about a month ago, there was an article about the Chinese restaurant on 79th and Amsterdam closing. They referenced the original owner who 5 years ago was killed by a delivery bike. You know what? They never found out who it was because he moved on. Please, thank you for doing something about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes.
My name is Karen Shugru, and I'm here representing a group called New Yorkers for Civil Discourse and Accountability. We are 100 signatories of a letter that was sent to the community board as well as our elected officials. I'd like to follow up on the remarks by Mr. Conklin earlier, and I hope I can have 2 minutes instead of 1, as I represent 100 signatories. We have asked the community board and city council officials to scrutinize Mr. Conklin's behavior under your bylaws, which state that members shall treat members of the community with cordiality, professionalism, respect, and courtesy while acting in their capacity as board members. At the meeting, after, as you'll recall, a presentation that included victim stories, Mr. Conklin not only uttered the falsehood that he admits to tonight, he argued that not all e-bikers who hit pedestrians are at fault. In other words, some victims are, and he denied that he was victim shaming. He then proceeded to call out specific victims, some in the room here, who naming their names in a public forum and challenging the relevance of their stories. He even cited Priscilla Loke, who died after being mowed down by an e-city biker in whose memory this bike reform law is named. Why is she so emblematic, he asked. Just to remind you what happened at that meeting. Why is she so emblematic, he asked, saying her assailant stayed at the scene. In fact, the biker stayed briefly, and then it took a 2-week manhunt to track him down. I'm also sorry to point out, but in all of Mr. Conklin's remarks that night, there was no expression of sympathy to the victims he denigrated and named, or to the family of Miss Loki. Our group believes that spreading falsehoods and half-truths about the e-vehicle problem is really aimed at undercutting resolutions like this. And it's why effective e-vehicle reform has not happened, especially when new voices who counter entrenched viewpoints are intimidated and in effect shut down. In closing, we were very sorry to hear that Mr. Conklin has joined the ranks of e-bike victims in New York, such as myself, Renee, and others. I suffered a broken wrist and a broken pelvis hit by an e-bike vehicle. And we hope his injuries have healed as have ours. after all this time. Madam Chair, our group seriously supports and appreciates your effort on these public safety issues to keep our streets safe and our discourse civil. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Whoops. Well under.
Well done. Well done.
After this comment, we'll go to the many people who are online, and we'll take as many as we can before considering the comments at the table.
Thank you. I'm Judy Polson. I have lived on the Upper West Side for 35 years. Thank you very much for what you just said about the last meeting we had. It was very disturbing to see that. I am associated with EDSA as well. I worked as a project manager for 4 decades professionally, so in solving problems, I look for root cause. I think everyone here and online has heard that unidentifiable and unaccountable bike riders are the root cause of the damages we've heard about. I support this resolution calling for requiring registration, licensing, and insuring of e-bikes. The cops, we have talked with them, they do not have the tools to protect us, which they are tasked with doing. We need and deserve protection from these reckless bike riders, these heedless bike riders. This thoughtful resolution is a good start, and I hope we'll progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. All right, seeing no one else in the room, we'll go to the people who are online next, and we'll start with Janet Schroeder. Janet, you should be able to speak. If you're still with us.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
I'd like to show my face too. I don't know how to do that,
We
but.
can see if you can.
Turn on your camera.
We can see your.
Well, I know how to turn it on, but I'm on my phone, so it makes everything a little crazier. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't hold you up. I'm trying to show my face. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead. We know.
Yeah, you know what I look like. Okay. So I'm gonna speak maybe just a little bit over a minute, but I'm adding something that I didn't plan on adding. So first I want to say thank you to Jamie and the Public Safety Task Force. Thank you so much, Jamie and the Public Safety Task Force. But I must speak to something that someone said about the survey not being representative demographically. I hope that the seniors on the Upper West Side showing up heavily on a survey is welcome as an extreme positive. Let's not diminish the results of a survey because there were more older people. We should be very concerned about the concerns of the most vulnerable people in our society. No, younger people won't list e-bikes as a concern. They can jump easily out of the way on the sidewalk or crosswalk if they're hit. So it's not their number one concern. They can see and hear better and their reflexes are better. Their strong bones don't shatter like those of older people. So please, let's listen and respect our elders. If this is the biggest issues to seniors, then there you have some extremely important info in your survey. Please take them seriously. This resolution is good. Thank you. I support it. I'm encouraged that it recognizes this 5-year e-bike crisis. It's real. There have been tens of thousands of injuries according to the real stats, which are the ER stats. And I am working on all the ER stats right now, and I hope to have a report in about 6 weeks. I will let you know when I do, if you're interested in hearing it, because that's where we want the truth. Thank you for the resolution. There is Priscilla's Law in New York State. I want to call that out, A339A by Assemblymember Rajkumar. And the difference is it does include stand-up e-scooters, like the one that hit John Campo, and EFSA member Janine Berry, who was hit by an e-scooter while cycling, knocked unconscious. E-scooter fled. She was rushed to the ER where she almost lost an eye and had 5 titanium plates put in her head. E-scooters weigh up to 100 pounds, and the high-performance ones go as fast as 45 miles per hour. My last sentence. So although I would like to see e-scooters included in this resolution, I support and thank you for this well-written and thoughtful resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
We're going to move on, but I want to ask people online to please, don't feel you have to repeat things that have been said already. This is the 3rd meeting we've had on this topic. We've had all perspectives. We like hearing from you. We want to hear from you. This is your forum, not ours. But we do also want to move on to voting on the resolution.
City Bikes is the main.
Shira Nussbaum,
And they
you should be able to speak.
to have identification licenses.
Can you hear me?
We can.
You're not gonna get.
Okay.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all of this, and I have to tell you how deeply disturbed I am at the level of disrespect. You say on the one hand that you hear us, but then nothing is done. This has been going on for years. It is obvious that e-bikes need to have proper licensing. And the number of years that have gone by with your task force basically accomplishing not very much, if anything at all. I think you should all hang your heads in shame. I really do. I really do. It's an outrage to all the many, many people who have been victimized by e-bikes, who have lost limbs, who have lost eyes, who have lost their lives. And you still sit there and you can't manage to figure out what to do. Hang your heads in shame, my dears. It's absolutely outrageous.
So much, Ms. Nussbaum. Thank you.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Nussbaum, I'm happy to point out to you that this is a new task force, so if this resolution passes, it will pass here for the first time. And you have us confused, I think, with perhaps another committee.
I don't think so. Some of you have been on other task forces as well.
Okay, thank you for joining us, and I hope we'll
I mean,
see you
she does-
again.
I will say, she does bring up a good point in that I am like. back
This
to
is
the-
our chair, Alex.
Back to the circling around. I am worried that if we make it seem like, I don't know how to do this, but like, there is a very real possibility, as you know, Jay, that we write this out, we say, here's a resolution, the state legislature doesn't do anything, none of these actors take any action, and then Ms. Nussbaum comes 3 years later and says you didn't do anything.
Well, I don't think she's frustrated.
That is
with-
not the case. That is
Frustrated.
not the case. You
Ms.
do
Nussbaum.
your job and then we'll worry about what happens next.
Ms.
You do
Nussbaum.
your job.
Ms.
So how's
Nussbaum,
that
correct me if I'm wrong about this. Ms. Nussbaum is not upset with state actors. She's upset with this
No,
board.
I did not say that. Please do not put words in my mouth. I am
Go ahead.
upset. I am upset with state actors who have not acted on our behalf, but there are those who have. I expect you, as the task force who has taken a survey and has received hundreds and hundreds of people, as Janet Schroeder said, elderly people who are in need of your help. Do what you're supposed to do. That's all. Then we'll take the next step. That's all.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I think we understand where you're coming from. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go on to Sandy.
Well, that's what we're
Rayburn.
doing right now, right here.
Sandy, you are able to speak, I think, so go right ahead. If you're still with us. Sandy, are you still with us in the meeting? We may have lost Sandy. Okay, Donald Reed, are you still with us? Donald Reed,
Okay, yes, I am. Thank you.
please go right ahead.
I'm gonna take down the reso, so if anyone wants to.
Okay, my name's Don Reed, and I'm a longtime resident of Manhattan. I'm a biker too. And can you imagine, in the last 2 weeks, I witnessed 3 e-bike accidents, 3 injuries who went to the hospital on ambulances. All 3 were serious injuries. And I'm thinking, is this just a coincidence that I'm seeing in the 3 of these, witnessing 3 in 2 weeks? Or is this actually widespread? Maybe it's not an anomaly. Okay, but get on with it. Raise your head out of the shame. This is a great action step forward, the resolution. I would just add a couple things. One, I put a maximum speed limit of 15 miles an hour. Required to be on the e-bikes as a governor. It's a physical, it's a physical thing you put on a bike that doesn't allow it to go over a certain speed. 15 miles an hour, I believe that is the speed limit for e-bikes bicycles and e-bikes in bike lanes. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? And the other one is that to make it clear, this resolution applies to all e-bikes regardless of class, 1, 2, or 3. I know there's a big deal about throttles being really different, from pedaling. But the feedback I get from bikers, city bikers, that hey, boy, you just put a little pressure on that pedal and you move. So I don't think. Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Your time is up though, sir. Everybody gets 1 minute and you're at minute 50.
I'm in minute 50. Well, thank you. Well, you heard about hey, the throttle to me is just a different way of speeding up very quickly. It just the pedals do the same thing. So all e-bikes. All right, thank you,
sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
You betcha.
All right, Elizabeth Chow, are you still with us? Elizabeth, are you with us? Elizabeth Chow?
I am. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to thank this committee for bringing this resolution to this discussion. It is beyond time that we do something to address this problem of electric motor vehicles being driven recklessly all over our sidewalks, our streets, our parks. So thank you very much for bringing this. I agree with Janet that it should also include e-scooters, which are at least as dangerous. And I hope that you pass this resolution and that something then happens with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your cogent comments. Peggy Ennis, are you still with us? You are free to speak if you are still here.
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you very much for posting this and for proposing the resolution. It seems like all the attention is on more protected bike lanes, protecting the cyclists, and not enough is being done for the pedestrians. I'm not a statistic because I've been fortunate enough to only have been grazed twice by bicycles and took 2 very bad falls trying to avoid head-on collisions with the cyclists. Enough's enough right now. And something's got to be done. It's going to get worse now that we've decriminalized not following the rules of the road by the bicycles. The weather's nice, and I guess my time's up. But something's got to be done, and the focus has to be on the pedestrians again.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Bonnie Gerard.
Hello?
Hello, go right ahead.
I'm a victim of a serious e-bike accident, which I described previously. However, I do want to thank you very much for taking up this resolution. I am thrilled that it is being paid attention to, in addition to the fact that I am a member of EVSA, and we're doing our best to have the city and state finalize some sort of resolution to our citizens. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Bonnie. Richard Robbins. Mr. Robbins, are you with us?
I am, and I'm in an airport, so I apologize for the background noise. This
Hi.
resolution is well intentioned, but unfortunately the solutions are bound to fail. A few concerns, especially taking note from our experience regulating and enforcing cars and mopeds. Number one is that a large number of riders of e-bikes are not documented. And I can't imagine any documented person would voluntarily go to a government office and give their name and home address to register a bicycle. Number two, DOT recently put out a report about the speed camera program that said in 2023, there were over 3 million speeding events that could not be ticketed because of missing or obscured plates. That was about 30% of all violations. And I've seen many motorcycles and mopeds that bend their license plates so that they can't be read. I can't imagine that e-bikes are going to do anything differently. Similarly, the City Council's Department of Investigation found that 20% of cars with out-of-state plates have license plates that are not connected to the vehicle's VIN. And what would stop e-bikes from using fake plates? And how would the police even know if a plate is real? There are a large number of serious car crashes in the city that are hit. and we don't know who the drivers are. I have to say, a number of other speakers went for over 2 minutes, so I'd appreciate the same courtesy.
But keep going. They did not.
Rich, you can have another few seconds. Go right
Okay,
ahead. Just a few seconds.
also, riders don't have driver's licenses. So how do we even know if the license plate is connected to the rider or who the owner is? It's extremely hard for NYPD to stop cars, and they've stopped doing high-speed chases. They're not going to start doing high-speed, or we hope they don't start doing high-speed chases of e-bikes, because that could lead to a number more fatalities. And the biggest issue is the delivery platforms. I encourage everyone to sign up and deliver for DoorDash to have the same experience I did, but they require the riders to be independent contractors and absolve the platforms of any responsibility. And in my mind, the only solution is to make the platforms responsible. These delivery riders have no assets, and they're not going to go out and get insurance, and suing them isn't going to do anything. And right now, the delivery platforms just point at them. There also already are laws require them to have identification both on the bikes and their driving.
Rich, thank you for your thoughts very much. We appreciate it.
I want to reserve 30 seconds.
Could I just say one last thing, which is city
No,
bike
no,
code
you
being
can't.
regulated,
No,
and
no.
there should be easy identification on city bikes.
I agree with you, and even I want you to
All right, we have one more. You
Oh,
will be,
wait.
you will be permitted, we
Thank
only have
you.
one
I
more
appreciate
person on Zoom. Sandy Rayburn, you, I believe, are our last person who wants to speak to this issue. We do have a member of the public who wants to speak to a different.
Messengers coming in here, is that? Do anyone supposed to?
Sandy, go right ahead.
Okay. I wasn't unmuted before, so that was why I disappeared into the night. Anyway, first thing I want to say, first of all, thank you. But I want to also say that those who claim to lead on safety have to do better. The Transportation Committee Chair, Ken, has not met the moment. He chooses instead to defend the indefensible, that e-bikes can never do wrong, rather than protect the public for those that do harm. Secondly, as an elder with a deaf disabled family member, I can tell you plainly, walking in this so-called most walkable city has become dangerous for them and dangerous for me. I hear so that hopefully, as an old lady, I can maybe hop off, but they cannot. So the deal here with lawmakers in Albany and in City Hall should both be responsible as stewards of safety. So to say we're going to leave it for Albany or we're not going to do it in City Hall is an egregious failing. So enough about what about the car's deflection. Cars have license plates, etc. So thank you. I don't want to exceed my time.
Thank you, Sandy. And I do want to acknowledge that we have one other member of the public on Zoom who wants to speak, but it's to a different issue. So we'll hold that for the public session that follows, the new business session that follows. Jay, would you like to
Yeah, well, a couple
respond?
of.
And then I know Barbara, Tabitha, Howard, and maybe others.
Oh, yeah.
Doug. So we'll go around the horn.
Okay,
And then we'll vote.
just a couple of procedural things.
Go right ahead.
Almost all of what Alex was talking about, and I said this before, I agree with. And unless there's an objection, I would plan to treat those suggestions, and I'll discuss with them as friendly amendments.
Yes.
Put them into the resolution as its final form when it goes to full board, so we don't have to go through the whole.
And may I ask a point of inquiry on that?
Certainly.
So you would put those into the facts and circumstances
Well,
taken into account?
Yeah, I will, yes.
Okay.
They're essentially facts supporting the resolution.
Okay.
There's one, however, that some people have raised. The original resolution we passed included e-scooters, and several people have mentioned that. I wouldn't use the word agonize, but I went back and forth on that, and in the last paragraph of the resolution, I suggested that DOT look at the feasibility, et cetera, of including e-scooters. Listening to the discussion, I think it probably simply makes sense to reiterate what we said before and just include e-scooters in the body of the resolution. And if everybody is in accord with that, I'll treat that as another friendly amendment and move it from consideration to inclusion. If that's okay with everybody.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Any objection?
Good.
Good.
And one final observation. I don't understand our past colleague, Rich Robbins, making the argument that essentially is, if people are gonna break the law, why bother making the law? I mean, if we did that, we'd all be walking around with guns on our hips and a lot of other things. Pardon me, but it's an inane argument, and I just had to comment on it.
All right, let's go around the table and I'm going to just go in order. Steve, have you anything that you want to ask or say briefly about this? We've talked about it before.
I mean, I spent a year and a half asking CV7 to take on the issue of public safety as a focused, comprehensive issue that needed a committee or a task force or something like that, after simply in response to what people were saying. And I mean, I think the first step forward here is important, and 700 people with a very, very small effort to solicit response came in. And I am one of those seniors who responded. And I sent it to everyone connected to the Upper West Side Coalition, and that next day, 300 people responded. So if we find ways to communicate with our community, they will respond, you know? And I think that we've heard the response. We've heard it on the streets. This reconfirms. It is the details that obviously are at the challenge now. And I think Jay's done a marvelous job, and I'm sure there are people who object to every single point that there is and have all sorts of arguments, but I don't think they're strong enough. I think it's time to finally do everything possible and move forward and advocate, following the successful passage of this resolution, advocate and demand that our elected officials see this and do their job now that the community board has done what they feel is the responsible thing to do. I'm sorry for blathering on.
And I would like to note, thank you, Steve. I would like to note that Senator Bottcher's representative has been on this call for the duration since the beginning of
Absolutely.
the meeting, Quentin Hallwarmer. So he's taking it all in and he'll take due note of whether or not the resolution passes. So thank you for mentioning our elected officials again. Go ahead, Doug.
Where does he stand
Look,
on the issue, do you know?
He's
Not
new to
there
the
yet.
office.
Not there yet.
Not there
He's not
yet.
new.
New to the office, new to the office.
Oh, not the
Right.
budget.
Not-
I'm glad that we're doing this, and I have, I've been discouraged for years, about
No problem, Scott.
what we haven't done.
No camera and no,
Please mute yourself,
access.
Ms. Rayburn. And I ride a city bike, and I'm a licensed driver, and of course I'm a pedestrian. And I do agree that what we talked about earlier, that e-bikes are here to stay, and they actually provide an incredible service. If we lived in a utopian world, everybody would behave and they would yield to pedestrians and everybody would be respectful. The problem is we have no behavior modification. We have no accountability. Part of the lack of accountability is because they can't be identified. And that's been said over and over again. So yes, the hit and run story is repetitive. It's terrible. And if you can't, point out who is the assailant, and perhaps actually, if they're identified and, they actually, you could prove that they
Report it,
weren't.
dickhead.
But anyway. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just get it. Just
Okay.
get,
All right. If somebody is using profanity, can we just boot them off of the server here?
We can't tell who it
If
was.
everybody online could mute them.
In any case,
Just mute all the.
what I want to say is that I do understand the concerns that have come up with undocumented workers. But you know, look, the big 800-pound gorilla or gorillas are these big delivery apps. And yes, they have the deepest pockets. And because they have the deepest pockets, they've been the biggest resistance to any legislative change because they have the most expensive lobbyists in every lobby in the city and the state. And every one of our elected officials is hearing from them. All right. Anyway, just to wrap up, look, I think that it's about time that we did something. I do have a question, which is different than my comment to Jay. Very interesting about the Motor Vehicle Accident Indemnification Corporation. That's news to me. I assume, by the way, some of these big companies are big enough to self-insure, but that's.
Well, that's
their
okay, and they're
choice.
allowed to.
Sure. It would no fault insurance possibly kick in?
Well, generally, it's the same components of auto insurance, but no fault is required.
Got it. Thank you. And lastly, the friendly amendment that I would make is that we say that it shall require any food delivery company contracting. But I do want to point out that there are many delivery companies using e-bikes that are not just food. There's other merchandise. We have last mile delivery with Amazon, and some of those carriers are not carrying food at all.
They don't go as fast.
I'd like,
But
it
they're
would just,
big.
you know, what I would say as a friendly amendment is that it would be all commercial operations
Yeah.
with other merchandise,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
limited to
exact-
food.
Yeah,
Or could
I
you
think
just
that
strike
is-
food?
Well, I would suggest, since the most prolific use is food, that we don't de-emphasize it. So I would just say food and other commercial delivery.
Perfect.
Great.
Right.
I would ask everyone online to mute yourselves, lest we hear your private thoughts.
No longer private thoughts.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say, well-written resolution, and I thank you very much. One of the comments that I have is the cars. We have cars that are using battery operated, right? Because you have hybrid cars and, so I'm thinking like, why can't the state modify the law to include the same rules and regulations as they do for cars that are run by batteries? Because you said separate designation for e-bikes. Because they have a battery?
For, those are electric assisted bicycles, any car, truck, anything, hybrid, electric is covered now.
Okay, so then I'm saying, then there should not be an issue regarding e-bikes having to get registration and insurance. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
I
understand.
agree with you,
Yeah.
but right now they're in a separate category.
Right.
That's not required. This is asking.
No, I get that,
That
yeah.
they be recategorized.
Right.
As a vehicle,
Right.
basically,
Well, I think
like
that-
every other.
Yeah, they should be included also under the same guidelines
Right.
as cars that are battery operated as well. The other question I have too is, I'm concerned as a pedestrian on the sidewalk, because they're constantly on sidewalks. So I would like to see our state elected officials or whoever have some kind of ruling or law to enforce something where upon they understand that those bikes are not allowed on the sidewalk.
They're
not allowed on the sidewalk.
They're already prohibited.
But nobody's enforcing it, that's my point. you
Because
know.
they can't tell who they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do feel we still need like police officers or someone to say, okay, you can't ride your bike, And even if you're delivering, I see them rolling up to a building, they need to park in the curb like everyone else does for a delivery. And not roll up to a building door, and I'm a pedestrian, I feel like I have the right to be on the sidewalk, it's like there's no enforcement anymore about who and what's on the sidewalk. That's all I'm saying, I think
No,
that we need to look at that.
I think we all agree 100%
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that. And the key to enforcement
Mhm.
is identification. There can't be
Yeah.
enforcement without identification. It's site identification,
Mhm.
camera identification, witness identification. We need a license plate.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying right now, there should be some enforcement where they're not allowed on the sidewalk. That's what I'm talking about. I think we need to look at that next, to be honest with you, because it's truly out of control.
There was some enforcement, right?
Mhm.
Early on, there was some ticketing and there was some
Right.
splash. And unfortunately, I think the commissioner's just been.
Yeah, I
very
think that's,
busy
that's
with
another
very
issue that's
other
gotten out of
incredible
control.
things, right?
Yeah.
So maybe.
Because we have no safe space to walk
Yeah.
on the sidewalk anymore.
But that's a good opportunity for frankly, the 2.0 and the 2.4, when you go and speak, say that this is something that's been coming up and you can understand and report back
Mhm.
about what the police officers are saying. I mean, I think we anecdotally know what they would say, but it's important.
They
to
say the same thing over and over.
Yeah,
They're
they
not
say
permitted to
enforced, they're not
chase.
permitted,
They
but
don't have the
Same thing.
they don't
Same-
have the resources.
They don't have the
Yeah.
resources.
Of course, we think it's horrible,
Yeah.
but
All right, they don't have to chase, but you're saying a police officer cannot tell someone on a sidewalk?
if they see it happening
That's
and they're right there.
Okay,
May I jump
And
in
they have
here?
to-
The 2.4 will come next week,
okay, good.
next
Oh,
month.
good.
Right.
And they will speak about quality of life. This
Okay.
is
Good.
arguably
Good.
part of that.
Okay.
And we can ask about it.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Tabitha.
I support the resolution. I do have a friendly suggestion amendment. So as it relates to undocumented workers, maybe we can just clarify that, nothing in this resolution changes the fact that, subject to, previous rule changes, a few months ago, delivery workers are no longer subject to criminal summonses for traffic infractions, correct?
Yeah, well, what's happened procedurally, and Commissioner Tisch had said that before,
Yeah,
that if they were registered, she could do away with the program of issuing criminal summonses, which required an appearance. And in this environment, all of us were concerned
yeah,
about, ICE parking in the courts and
yeah, exactly.
rounding up people. So now the mayor has done away with that program.
Yeah, so
So what, if there's registration and there's a license, they just get a ticket and mail in the fine, just like every other
yeah.
vehicle
So
driver.
I'm suggesting we clarify that in here, just so
So
people
you
know.
want this paragraph to be to here to have an additional clarification that this is not focused on the delivery worker. It's focused
Correct, yeah,
on the company.
just to assuage the worries
Yeah.
of people who,
I think
Just to remind people
Yeah,
that
just to
that
remind people
summons
that-
has been removed.
yeah, I support the resolution as it is, but that is just a suggestion.
I'll try to, I'll try to come up with
Okay,
Yes,
some
you can-
terse language to deal with that.
sure,
Yeah.
thank you.
One of the issues that we found when this all started, especially, right after COVID, we had los libristas, et cetera. What we found is that a lot of them weren't documented and there was like a syndicate where they could rent. Cause allegedly, we had DoorDash come
Yeah,
and we had Grubhub and they all insisted that everybody was licensed and that they were, and they had to be licensed. So a syndicate, evidently a syndicate had arisen where, had developed where people could lease the
the license,
registrations.
yeah.
So the whole thing, so it was so underground and there was no real way to discern who was legitimate or not. So obviously this is an issue. So I think the idea of making it the responsibility of the DoorDashes and the Grubhubs and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, that's why,
And it doesn't target the folks who are just trying to make a living.
if anybody comes up with some language or something, please, email me. As I said, I'll try to come up with something
Okay.
terse and to the point, but I'm certainly open to any suggestions.
Okay, I can
All right,
think of it.
we're
I can write
halfway,
a
we're
half
halfway around the
sentence or a
table
sentence.
and Dan, has his hand raised as well. Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, I think I have a somewhat different perspective on this. I agree with everyone that this is a monumental problem. I think could be persuaded to believe this is the biggest problem our community faces. And as I'm sure you all know, I bike. I always use the classic city bike. I walk, and I also am a driver. So this is a major problem. The problem I have with this resolution is we sort of did this a few years ago, and it's only gotten worse. That's a fact. We did something similar to this, not identical, and it's only gotten worse. I understand that the difference, Alex said there has to be a difference, and I agree, because I think it will fail at the full board if it's viewed as identical. I think most people would be persuaded that we should not be adopting a redundant resolution. So the expansion that Alex and that was talked about was including class 1 bikes, the kind of marginal assist that the city bike, electric bikes have. And I will say, I don't know whether that should be registered or not. I'm just saying that that's not the solution to the problem we're facing. The fact that class 1 e-bikes are not registered. I think there's a major problem out there. I think there needs to be engineering. When someone talked about the bus, that's just an engineering issue. The bike lane goes right into where the people get off the bus. It's designed that way. It's designed to have a conflict. All the registration in the world is not going to change that design flaw. There's another problem with enforcement. There's Ken Coughlin told me, another mention of Ken, that he has this 80-some-odd-year-old neighbor who was gliding through a T intersection with a red light. I think it was like 5 in the morning, and they ticketed him. The cops go after the slowest, easiest prey. The guy going 30 miles an hour and diagonally through the intersection is not going to get stopped. I don't have the answer to that, but I think that's what we need to be working on to make the streets safer. Having a recourse after someone's hit, again, we did already call for registration. Yes, it's important, but I would much rather see us focus and spend resources on preventing these issues from ever happening, so that people didn't have the kind of issues, the kind of injuries we heard up tonight. We could definitely do both. I just, with regard, I just think a lot of effort is going to something that we've already done, and it's only gotten worse. And so that's my take on it.
Jamie, I just want to briefly respond to this,
Okay, go
to
ahead,
this,
Jay.
this complaint that somehow we're repeating something we did. I've been on this board for 17 years, okay? Almost every year, we put in our district needs missive that we submit to the city, that our chief concern is affordable housing, that one of our chief concerns is food insecurity and education. Should we just drop it and not keep pushing and pushing? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if we think, as you said, that it may be the biggest problem in our community, we have to continue to address it. And saying we should engineer the bikes differently or the buses differently, in my opinion, is a diversion. And we have some very real solutions that she would go, and it's going to happen. There are a dozen states that have passed this. New Jersey just passed a comprehensive statute requiring registration, licensing, insurance, courses, testing.
Okay, you're not gonna convince Howard.
but I
Why
just-
don't you make that point at the full
Okay,
board?
I just
Howard,
wanted
you
to make
can make
quote.
your
It's
reply
not my,
and
it's
then
not my reply.
Barbara
I
will-
want to quote Albert Einstein. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Albert Einstein.
If that were true, we wouldn't have civil rights or women's suffrage.
There were no e-bikes when Albert Einstein was here.
Okay, let's have Barbara and then we're gonna move
I
on.
wanna make a bet with you that this passes the full board,
I don't know.
and I'll tell you why.
I don't bet.
I mean, oh, okay, well, I don't either.
Well, I know there'll be 2 votes
Please
against
go
it.
ahead, it's a
I,
figure of
what I was
speech.
gonna say before is sort of moot, but it had to do with the same issue. 4 years ago, when we had first started some social media on this board, it was a totally different animal. This is a totally different animal today. It's like apples and oranges. We didn't have e-bikes that were, throttles and bound, we didn't have that. This is something new, and it is our responsibility, it seems to me, to bring this before the board, as Jay said, over and over and over again until we can, until it passes. This is a safety issue. It's consuming 3 committees right now. I agree with you that it is the most important issue on the board right now.
Parks is very involved with this, transportation, they may be coming from a different angle. But, and Jamie's public safety, task force, which is doing an amazing job.
And
on this.
Roberta, the senior
And
task
the
force.
senior task
Yes.
force as well, so.
I just want to say it's gotten worse and I think we have to step up our game and not the same old thing we did 4 years ago.
And Jay has already pointed out that there are many differences that were not there before. He will continue.
It's gotten worse, but the resolution's the same.
The no, it's not.
It's not
calling
the
for
same.
it's
Okay, so
calling for registration.
Howard has made his
Let's
point,
see
that
what
the
happens.
resolution
Okay.
is the same, that's.
With the
That's
expansion
on
to
the-
class one, which I'm not convinced that that's.
That is
gonna
Okay,
happen.
so we
Yeah.
heard your
What?
The
point,
bet is on.
Okay.
the bet is on.
A gentle person.
Let's hear what Patrick thinks. Dan, I do see that you have your hand raised as well online. Go ahead, Patrick.
I respectfully I feel I have to oppose this resolution in full, but particularly as regards class one e-bikes. I feel like you make an interesting point regarding like, well, just because someone breaks the law, why, that doesn't mean we shouldn't pass the law. But it might make them break the law in a different way. You guys may be familiar with the iron law of prohibition. If you prohibit something, people take the more concentrated form of it instead.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, say again?
Can you explain that?
Well, you prohibit beer, you get moonshine, you
Okay,
prohibit
okay.
heroin, you
Got
get fentanyl, things
Okay.
of this nature. And so what I fear will happen if we include class ones in this is people are going to see, okay, you have to register, license, register, and insure these now. You already have to license, register, and insure a limited use motorcycle that is a moped under New York state law. And they're going to say, well, why don't I just do a little less work with my legs and purchase the similarly priced, but many times heavier moped and drive that around recklessly instead in the same ways they were doing with cars, with mopeds already, and yes, with e-bikes, which I agree is a problem. To the victims, I just want to address this. I am so sorry that these things happen.
You're right.
I am so sorry that these things happen to you. I just want to say the app companies, if they say they don't have the information needed to help you, they are lying to you. And I would absolutely support anything that would force them to turn over that information, which they are already collecting, including position, timing, and the accounts that were operating bikes at the time. I think I agree with Howard. I think I agree with Howard. This is primarily an infrastructure issue. We talked to transportation alternatives about this. There are ways to make intersections safer. You can create those speed bumps to prevent people from running lights at speed. You can design your bus stops to prevent people from having these traffic conflicts where you step off the bus into an active bike lane immediately. And I also think there's, no,
He gets June.
I just have one more point to make and then I'll shut
Go
up
ahead.
fully.
You've been reasonably quiet today.
There is an opportunity cost at the government level, not necessarily for us, but at the execution level to doing this. Bureaucracy and enforcement are expensive. There are collateral consequences to this enforcement that are expensive. Bringing people into the court system is one of the most expensive ways to change their behavior. And changing some paving and laying some asphalt is pretty damn cheap. And
Or having the police to say, get off the sidewalk, which they never do.
Why can't we do all of it?
Thank you, gentlemen. And also, Jennifer.
I'm very curious about this bus stop and the lanes, and I think that's such an important piece. I have nothing else to offer, but I'm gonna think about that.
Yeah, I've thought about it too. I don't have an answer. I also don't have an answer to the guy going 30 miles an hour diagonally through the intersection.
No, I
But
think we
that has
all
to
agree
stop.
we all agree there's a problem, and this has been a thoughtful conversation, and I've actually learned a few things and changed, maybe expand some of my opinions. Jay, thank you for the work. I think it's really thoughtful. The only thing I'd be concerned about is you don't want to lose anyone with the class one. I would support it with the class one, but I just would like to see it pass and not stalemate, but I think it's. Thank you.
And I understand
Yeah.
that argument.
Yeah.
And in the 2021 resolution,
You have to take it out.
my original resolution included all three classes.
Yeah.
And there was
Concern,
an extended discussion about class one. And I eventually
You got it.
left it out.
Yeah.
part of the reason I include it is that I've read a couple of articles about people easily modifying class one
Yeah.
e-bikes to make them much more quickly responsive and faster. And I don't have an expertise in that. And my preference would be to include it. I would be open to some kind of modifier perhaps that would allow, by the way, DOT can exclude them. If a law ever passed and the state transportation department wanted to exclude them, typically state legislation requires rulemaking on behalf of the agencies. They generally give broad guidelines and coverage. And the state agencies then go through another procedure, the State Administrative Procedure Act, where they have to notify the public of the pending rules. They take input, they take testimony, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure how I could articulate all of that in the resolution.
I don't think you need to. I think the important thing is to get the idea, because we want to bring this over to the legislators so that they act
Right.
upon it. We are
So-
still a community board, and we're not the ones who are going to vote on this. So actually, this was a tremendous resolution, Jay.
Thank you, I appreciate it. If there was a way to somehow inject that thought to include coverage for all three classes, but inject a thought recognizing that class one may require some different attention. I would certainly like to see such a
Friendly
suggestion.
on that. We could suggest in this resolution that any such legislation would require that anti-circumvention features be put on the controllers of these, anything sold as a class one e-bike, such that it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for a normal person to modify.
May I make a suggestion?
I mean, I have no problem about putting modifiers.
But that's not-
eBay, I'm not sure I would want language
that the
about
difference?
a normal person not being able to modify them, but please, email me a suggestion if you want on language. I'm willing to put that in. As I said, I was open to it 4 years ago when certain, group of members were concerned about it. I'd like not to exclude it now, but I would consider a modifier.
Linda, you have a suggestion?
The idea here is I would keep it in, and I'll tell you why, it's about modifying
I
behavior.
intend to.
Okay, and so whether it's class 1, 2, or 3, what's really germane here is to get people to modify their behavior. And when there are circumstances, then people tend to modify their behavior. I don't run a light when I'm driving, and I because I don't want to get a ticket, and I know there's going to be a camera there that's going to pick up my license. By the same token, I'm still a Midwesterner, and I don't cross against the light,
Right.
unlike New Yorkers after 50
Well,
years. So
just to be clear,
I don't think you need to change it.
registration to me is the bottom line.
Yes, that's it.
So it would be in the context of registration and some kind of
Also, I want
modifier,
to add one more thing, Jay.
asking for a separate look at.
Jay, the other thing is that when you wrote this in 2021, we were not dealing with the proliferation of, city bikes didn't have a pedal assist at
Right.
that time. So we
Right.
were dealing with a different kind of behavior,
Right.
and we were specifically dealing with delivery bikes. And that was really the focus. It has changed. There are more people using electric vehicles for recreation, for commuting, and that's fine. The idea is to have some kind of responsibility and accountability, and that's it.
All right.
That's why it's a good resolution.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
coming.
Can we
All of you.
No, we cannot because we've not heard, we're
Oh.
hearing from a member of the public
sorry.
who's saying her good night.
Say good night
night.
and thank you.
Good night.
And just to add one small anecdote, on my way here tonight, I took a taxi. As any New Yorker, I was late. I asked the taxi why he was driving so slow, and he said because there are traffic cameras on Central Park West.
Yeah.
So, this is what we are needing to prevent the accidents. I'm all for gathering the data after the accidents have happened.
Thank you for coming. Sarah Lee, you have not spoken yet. Do you have anything you would like to say?
I haven't, but I think that, I thank you for doing this, and I'm very concerned about the negative statements that a couple of people made, saying, well, it won't work, so we shouldn't try. I think that nothing would ever get done, and there would be no advances in any area of our lives if we had that attitude that, oh, some people won't follow the rules, so forget it. It just doesn't work. And the guy on the bridge, yeah. I mean, it was just absolutely negative, and I agree with your assessment of it. But I also think that your attitude is pretty negative, as is yours. And I don't understand people who say, well, everybody's not gonna do it, so let's not try.
I don't think, I just wanted to defend myself. I was saying that there are ways, that there are more, I think there are more effective ways to rein in safety other than trying to get people money after they've been hit. My interest in is avoiding people getting hit in the first place.
Right.
Okay.
They're not mutual,
They're not mutually exclusive, but it seems tonight we're focusing only on one thing.
Hold on, I wanna remind everyone that we're supposed to have one go at the conversation, maybe two, not five. And Dan Gerstein has patiently been waiting to speak and has not yet had one comment on the resolution. So Dan, no, not on this.
Oh.
He spoke on the
my
survey.
mistake.
Dan, do you
That's
have-
okay, Jamie. I'd appreciate it. And also my daughter's been waiting patiently to hear me say something and she needs to go to bed.
Show her your brilliance.
Yes.
Okay, I first off want to echo the praise for Jay. This is an incredibly thoughtful and thorough resolution, and we really appreciate you putting all this work into it. I wholeheartedly support it, the spirit of it, almost everything in it. I want to suggest a couple potential tweaks to it. One is in terms of the call to action being first to the state legislature and then to the city council, that if the state doesn't act, in my mind, lets the city council off the hook. And the biggest imperative in terms of action is here in New York City. And I'm concerned that if we continue this process of looking to the state to take this on, when they have so many other issues and there's a lot more complexity to the politics there, it's unlikely to happen. And I understand theoretically why we would want the state to regulate statewide first. And so it's very understandable that in an abstract to make them the focal point. But I think, again, it lets the city council off the hook. And I think we should call on, at a minimum, both legislative bodies to act on equal footing, if not the city council first. So that's my first point. The second point is this idea of, nothing's changed. Jay and the others have done a very good job, I think, of pointing out a lot of the substantive things changed. But what's also changed is the level of frustration and even fury among our constituents. And that, to me, I think needs to be reflected in this document, is that it's not just that people are concerned, they're outraged. And I understand Ms. Nussbaum's frustration, and I think it's not fairly directed at us, but I certainly understand that frustration. The city government has been captured by special interests that have blocked any action on this. And people are furious. So to me, that is the number one thing that has changed, is as the problems got more serious, the city has ignored the concerns of their constituents. And I think we need to do what we can and respectfully hold elected leaders' feet to the fire to sort of say, we demand action on this as the voice of our constituents.
Thank you, Dan.
Just one quick response to something that Dan said about the city versus the state. And I appreciate the argument. There are 3 major state bills that are still in committee in the state legislature. State constitution prohibits enacting legislation for a particular named city. it sounds crazy, but it does not prohibit enacting legislation for cities of 1 million or more, or cities of 400,000 or more when they used to include Buffalo. And the legislation does refer to cities of 1 million or more on the state level. So that somewhat eases the problem of that conflict. But again, and I say this to everybody that's made suggestions and has objections. I've tried to memorialize every one of them, most of which I respect and are willing to work on including. Please email them to me. Because I'm not gonna.
I would
just-
one more
To
friendly
me, the simple solution,
the simple solution is just to,
The simple solution is just to call on the state and city governments to move with urgency and not
One,
secretive.
Jimmy, a very one.
I can do that.
Very, very quick, friendly amendment on the last, further be it resolved. One of the things that I have come to realize is that illumination is really important. So you call upon other safety measures, if you could include illumination in, i.e. lights. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's currently required, but I have heard stories where drivers, and pedestrians just don't see them coming because they're not illuminated. They should, city bikes they're illuminated in front and back, all city bikes are.
Yeah.
But many of the delivery.
One of the things I could just considered in that last paragraph was that a resolution was introduced in transportation. It was mostly Sophia that was putting it forward about infrastructure changes. So I said that they need to consider infrastructure. I don't know how particular I should get, but something like rumble,
The rumble strip.
strips and
You said helmet requirements.
signaling and things like that. So I just try to keep it.
Please put lighting in it too.
General.
All right.
Lights. I didn't mean
Does
street
someone
lighting, I
wanna
meant.
Call the question.
Call the question.
All right,
Mhm.
somebody want to
Lighting on
second
the
that?
bike.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a vote. All in favor? Oh, right.
Who else is on? I see Dan and.
Dan online. Let me take this.
Do you have any
down.
other non?
No.
Task force member, does it matter?
Well, yeah, we have to
Actually,
task force
Actually, yeah, it
members
does matter, right?
first and then non-task
So we
force.
start again?
Members. So we have just task force.
Well, I see I got it. It's Barbara. And Elizabeth. And then everybody else. Okay, all opposed?
We'll see at the meeting.
Abstain? For cause?
Yeah, or that.
All right,
Then you got
passes.
Yay.
So what's the vote?
The vote is 9-2.
0-0.
0-0.
Well done.
Thank you all.
Okay, I have a couple of other little, thank you so much.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Other two are not, partially.
I was just gonna say, Madam Chair, I was just gonna say good night.
Oh,
Good
thank you
night.
so
I
much.
didn't want to disturb
Thanks
the
for coming.
meeting, but I just wanted to make one quick suggestion.
Go right ahead.
Maybe the city bikes, right, can have an automatic locking system where if the bike is going a certain speed and it's being drive recklessly, it can just shut off.
Oh.
There you
Well,
go.
It does have a speed limiter now.
I don't.
That sounds like
The pedal assist do now, they cut off at 15 miles an
That's
hour.
another thing.
Someday with,
Add objectives.
someday with AI, the bike will tell you that you're driving recklessly.
Thank you.
But I don't think we're there yet.
E-bike knows where all
Okay,
their bikes
very
are.
quickly,
24/7.
people, thank you very much for your patience. Let me just
Are we
very
done?
quickly, no, we're not finished. Very quick, that's why I was trying to move us along.
Yes.
Let me very quickly mention, two other things. I think you all know that a man was shot on West 104th Street
Yes.
Yeah.
and died at the hospital.
Oh, yes.
And the police are still looking for the perpetrator. And, we're going to have a meeting with 2-4. I think before that, I mean, I go, Steve goes, Doug goes to the meetings of the 2-0 and the 2-4, and even the Central Park. The most beautiful
go
precinct,
to
I think.
PSA
is-
6. PSA 6, the housing.
Polly
Yeah,
goes
housing
6,
bureau.
right?
You're on
That's
there.
right.
Yeah.
You're on
You're
board.
on? Yes, yes, yes. We'll try and keep you abreast of what's happening at those various meetings, because if we're there, if the 4 of us can go to those and then come back here and let you know what's happening at those meetings. They do talk about e-bikes a fair amount at Central Park, I'll tell you that. But at the next one of our meetings, the 2-4 is going to come, and I want to thank Steve for the suggestion and talk about the quality of life program that has been so successful. And Steve.
I don't know if it's been so successful.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
they're
gonna,
going to
it's
tell us.
gonna be
it's-
introduced.
They're going to tell us, they're gonna tell us that it's
Right,
successful.
right.
Formerly the NCO.
But we
Yeah.
can ask some questions about
Right.
what it is intended to be and how it's different from previous programs, et cetera. And I want to thank Steve for that suggestion. Alex wants us to look ahead to a couple of issues, so I want you to germinate this. Surveillance as it happens in our district, surveillance as a safety issue, as a privacy issue. Is that something we want to think about, consider? Is that too broad for us? Is that not really part of our,
That wasn't a survey question, was it?
no, no,
Might be something
but maybe
we
it is
could-
something we
we,
should.
we could add, if it's a concern to.
He's not here now to expand on what.
No, but I mean, just as a thought.
No, yes, no, I think it could be. He said he's particularly interested in having the task force think about it. There's the Link NYC, there are cameras everywhere. There's nowhere you can be in our district without being photographed in some way by someone for some purpose.
come back closer.
How do people feel about that? It's good for public safety, but it's not necessarily good for privacy, et cetera. The other thing, I wanted us to think about, Alex is also very, very hot on this topic, is stickers, graffiti, and other quality of life matters that are sort of low level, but do affect the way we feel about our community. It's not my issue, but it is his.
What's the
Jim?
issue with stickers?
Stickers are illegal.
What kind of stickers?
You put on,
Stickers. like-
Post no bill.
You mean like the Messiah is not coming?
The Messiah is not coming,
You mean-
and graffiti and other
so-
forms of
So like
public,
posters on
um,
lamp posts.
public disruption. public
I
disruption.
just hadn't reached.
Jamie,
You know,
heard them
I'm
refer
big,
to
These are
as
just
stickers.
I'm big on a broad thing about public safety, but I'm not hearing a lot of people talk to me about the dangers of stickers.
Listen, it's
That
not
is
my fault.
really-
When I was running for Congress, I wanted to put my stickers all
Right.
over everything until
Right.
Alex said, you can't do that, it's
Right.
illegal.
Jamie,
So-
question.
These are just issues that he wants us
Yeah,
to be. thinking about.
surveillance,
I have a question on the first issue.
Yes, sir.
Was he, I guess we have to ask Alex, was he talking about some of the biometric, machines that are opening up in
Yes,
a lot of our
yes,
retail?
yes, he is.
Yeah,
Correct.
and more to come.
And the regional
That's it.
B.
What, the ones that
Well,
walk
no, there
around?
are multiple
And you walk
businesses
through
in
the
our
store,
neighborhood
and the store
that do
identifies
implement biometric,
you.
readers because of,
I-
to counteract,
This is- I just-
theft and
yeah,
shoplifting.
Everybody knows
And,
everything about
it's
I
a
it.
wanna
double-edged sword,
leave
yeah.
you With the
You
dates,
wanna
I
stay
failed
home.
to do this just
You
now.
want to-
The Central Park Precinct meeting is at 7 PM on this Wednesday. The 24th, the 2-4, as we say, is March 8, the 18th, I'm sorry, April 18th. And, Holly, do you know,
So is the
Saturday?
second Thursday.
second
of the month,
Thursday? Yeah, they
April
moved,
18th is a
they
Saturday.
moved it onto a Saturday because of some, I don't think it's a Jewish holiday, I think it's an issue with the building, something with the building. And then I'll send these dates around. And then we have one person online, if she's still with us, who wanted to say something. Are you, let's see if she's still with us. Maxine, no, I think she left. Maxine, are you still there?
Is Quentin still awake?
He's amazing.
Am I ever awake?
There you are, Quentin. So Maxine DeSeta had wanted to talk to us about 103rd Street and the the closing of the streets for public enjoyment. But she gave up and she'll come back next month, I'm sure.
Can I just mention?
Any other new business?
Yeah,
And then we're done.
I'm not familiar exactly what's happened, but I understand that because of what's happening with the entire city's activity with the soccer tournament, that the NYPD has evidently stopped issuing any applications for events on the street that I guess were not previously. So if you want to have like a block party or something.
During
It's
the,
Yeah, during,
No new license.
no new
FIFA,
licensing.
right?
And I've had a
But it's
few,
a long
during the
period of
Olympics.
time.
yeah,
And
Oh, I'm
so
sorry,
how
during the
long?
World Cup.
yeah.
It looked like 3
Oh,
weeks.
is it
3 weeks?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
3 months will be a
I
lot.
saw the.
No,
It's 2 months. It's 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah, it's 2
2
months.
months in the city?
I think it's 2 months. I mean, I
It's
got
a
a few,
long
Probably
period
2
of
months.
time.
Maybe.
Summer months,
And there's
summer
so
months.
no new permits.
yeah.
Period.
I had a few block associations who
That's
wanted to do things, say to me, do you know anything about this? It was just like yesterday. I got some emails.
That
And
seems.
Somebody raised their
outrageous.
hand, I think.
Oh,
And,
You're on.
you have to look it on your,
I'm not familiar with the details. I just mentioned it as something.
we don't. I don't see the raised
oh,
hand
it
on
was
the Zoom.
Elon or someone just raised their hand. Maybe they took it, yeah, maybe they took it down.
I know him.
They're not even on this. Oh. Shalon, are you there? Are you
It may
wanting to
have-
say
it may have just
something? I
raised-
do see Elon.
Maybe accidentally.
So what could you do about that? Nothing.
I don't know the details of it.
The mayor announced it. That's it.
Oh, the mayor announced it?
Thank you, everybody,
Oh.
for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's no
Well,
recourse.
of
No, 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 no. But people need to know it.
I know.
I assume it's because of Homeland Security and a lot of,
I suppose when they apply for a permit, they'll find.
yeah,
out.
but it's
Yeah.
also.
That's why they contacted me.
Okay, here it
I
is.
said,
My
"You
my
help."
guess is this.
Had 2 block associations.
Oh, are we adjourned?
Involved with
Yeah.
joint
June and July.
Joint
June
terrorism
and
task
July.
force and Homeland
See, it's 2
Security.
months.
Sometimes they may be
You're excused.
issuing.
Jamie, are we-
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Jamie.
adjourn. Second.
I was just gonna ask if we can adjourn, yeah. Motion
That's
to
the
adjourn.
motion.
Right.
Second.
Second.
Good job, Dave.
All right.
Good night.
Good
See you
Just a
tomorrow.
reminder.
Don't forget, thank you all for joining us.
Your
Thank you
email.
for
I just
sticking
got 'em in
with us,
France.
man.
You want me to
Not
just
a
send
thing.
you?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I know.
Let's
I
see.
argue with Jamie.
Right, okay.
So we have this whole thing, no, when he was over Douglas Elliman,